I came to this country with one purpose burning in my chest like a steady flame to build a better life and then bring my family to join me. Every long shift, every lonely night in my small rented apartment, every meal eaten in silence, I endured it because I believed it was temporary. I told myself, this is for them, for my wife and for my children. The city I moved to was loud and restless. Nothing like the slow, dusty street of home. Here, trains screamed through the night. People hurried past without making eye contact. The skies was crowded with tall buildings that blocks out the stars. I worked construction during the day and cleaned offices at night. My hands grew rough. My back aches constantly. But my heart felt full because I carried their pictures in my wallet. I would open it during break and stare at their smiles. I called my wife every evening. Soon, I would tell her, very soon, I will send for you and the kids. She would laugh softly, the way she always did when she was child. We miss you, she do say. The children ask about you every day. Those words keep me going. When I finally had enough savings and a stable job contract, I began the visa process. It was complicated and full of paperwork, forms, copies. At one point, the immigration consultant mentioned that sometimes to avoid fraud, authorities requires a DNA test to confirm biological relationship between parents and children. I didn't think much of it at first. It sounded routine, just another step in a long list of requirements. That evening, during our usual call, I mentioned it casually. They might ask for a DNA test for the kids. I say, it's just a paperwork, nothing serious. There was silence on the other end. Then her voice changed. It wasn't soft anymore. What do you mean, a DNA test? She snapped. It is a standard something, I explained gently, just to prove they are ours. It is not personal. Not personal, she repeated, her tone rising. So now you don't trust me after all these years. I felt my chest tighten. That is not what I'm saying. It is the embassy's requirement, not mine. But she wouldn't listen. It is insulting, she said. You are accusing me. I am not accusing you of anything, I insisted. This is just a formality. She ended the call in anger. From that day on, every time I mentioned the DNA test, she became defensive, angry, hot. I won't do it, she said one evening. If you don't trust me, maybe we shouldn't even go through with this. Her words pierced me. I loved her. I trusted her. I had never doubted her loyalty. We had been together since we were practically children. I remember the first time I saw her. I was just a skinny schoolboy with oversized shoes and big dreams. She was standing under a mango tree near the school gate, her hair tied back, laughing with her friends. That laugh, clear and bright, hooked me instantly. Over time, we grew inseparable. We studied together, walked home together, and dreamed together. She was my first love, my only love, or so I believed. There was a memory that began to replay in my mind after her refusal, a small thing from years ago, something I had dismissed at the time. One weekend, back when we were dating, I called her in the afternoon. Where are you? I asked. At church, she replied. There is a special program today. Okay, I said, I will talk to you later. An hour later, a friend of mine drove by my house and invited me out. Let us go for a ride, he said. It is too hot to sit around. As we drove through town, I suddenly thought of her. That is our church, I said. Let's stop by and say hello. We laughed, thinking we would do surprise her. But when we reached to the church, the gates were locked. The building were dark and empty. No cars in the parking lot. No sound of singing. No special program. That is strange, my friend murmured. I called her immediately and her phone was off. At the time, I brushed it aside. Maybe she meant another church. Maybe the program has ended earlier. Maybe her battery had died. Love makes excuses where logic hesitates. Back in the present, her refusal to take the DNA test kept echoing in my mind. Finally, after speaking with a doctor who explained that I would take my own sample and compare it to the children's later if needed, I decided to proceed quietly. I didn't tell her I was doing it. I convinced myself it was just to satisfy the embassy and move things forward. The clinic was far from my apartment. I traveled by bus for nearly 3 hours. The journey felt endless. I stared out the window at field and highway, my thoughts tangled and heavy. At the clinic, everything smelled sterilized, bleached and cold air. The nurse swabbed the inside of my cheek. It was quick, simple for something that carries so much weight. Result in 2 weeks, she said. 2 weeks? 14 days of tending everything was normal. I called my wife every evening as usual. I laughed with the children over the phone. I asked about school, about their friends, about the neighbor's dog that kept barking at night. She sounded calmer now that I had stopped mentioning the test. Sometimes she even teased me of working too hard. You will forget how to relax, she joked. If only she knew how restless I was. At night, sleep avoided me. I would lay on my narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying memories, the locked church, the switched off phone, her anger about the test, the way she deflected instead of reassuring me. Why wouldn't she just take the test if there is nothing to hide? I asked myself again and again. Then I would feel guilty for even thinking such thoughts. 2 weeks later, I received the call. Your results are ready, the clinic receptionist said. My hands trembled as I hung up. I didn't go to work that day. I told my supervisor I felt sick in a way I already was. The journey back to the clinic felt longer than before. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I kept telling myself, it is fine, this is just a formality. You are overthinking. At the reception desk, they handed me a sealed envelope. Do you want to open it here? The nurse asked. I shook my head. I stepped outside and sat on a metal bench near the parking lot. Cars parked. People walked by laughing, talking, living their ordinary lives. The world seemed cruelly normal. I stared at the envelope for a long time before finally tearing it open. The words were clear. Clinical, unemotional, probability of paternity, 0%. My vision blurred. I blinked, thinking I had misread it. 0%, not low, not uncertain, 0. It felt as if the ground had vanished beneath me. My chest tightened so sharp I struggled to breathe. I read the line again and again, hoping it would change, but it didn't. The children I had worked for, sacrificed for, dreamed about holding in this new country were not biologically mine. I didn't remember how long I sat there. Minutes, hours, the sun shifts in the sky. My hands went numb. Image flooded in my mind. The first time I had my son in the hospital, the day my daughter took her first step, the night I stayed up when they had fevers, the pride I felt at school performance. Were those moments a lie, or was biology the only lie? I trusted my wife deeply. She was my childhood sweetheart, my best friend, the person I thought I knew better than anyone. And suddenly, I realized there were years I might not have known at all. The locked church door no longer felt like a small, dismissible detail. It felt like the beginning of a story I had been too blind to read. I took out my phone and stared at her contact name. Then I began to think, what would I even ask her? Is it that the kids are not mine? The words were too heavy to speak. Tears came, then hot and unstoppable, not just for the betrayal, but for the life I thought I had, for the version of my family that existed in my heart. I wasn't just heartbroken, I felt erased. Everything I had endured in this foreign land, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the homesickness, was anchored in the belief that I was doing it for my children. Now, sitting alone on that bench with a thin sheet of paper in my hand, I felt like a stranger in my own story. And the most painful question of all wasn't about biology. It was this: if they are not mine, then who am I to them? And who has my wife truly been with all these years? The wind picked up, rustling the paper in my trembling hands. For the first time since I arrived this country full of hope, I felt completely alone.